Welcome. This is the Outpost. This is a satellite version of the Marshall Festival 15, and I'm Marianne Murphy-Zarzana, the director of the Creative Writing Program at SMSU, and I am delighted to be introducing Cheryl Minnema. Cheryl was born in Minneapolis and raised on the Mill Locks Reservation by her mother, Millie Benjamin, and grandmother Lucy Clark, who taught her to do beadwork. By the time she was 10, she had watched her mother applique many belts, moccasins, capes, hair ties, and vests. From the selection of materials to the details of sewing flowers, she taught her that quality lies within the patience of the bead worker. While carrying on and preserving traditional Ojibwe patterns, Cheryl also brings a contemporary viewpoint to her work. After graduating from Ne Shing Tribal School, she received her Associate of Arts degree from Central Lakes Community College, followed by her Bachelor of Elective Studies from St. Cloud State University. She is currently working on her MFA in writing for children and young adults at Hamline University. Cheryl is the author of Hungry Johnny, a children's picture book which she'll be reading from today. And I'm very, very excited to say that she just found out yesterday that she is the recipient of the 2015 WordCraft Circle of Native Writers and Storytellers. It's a legacy award in the picture book category. So she's going to be one of those writers whose book just came out, and now it gets to have a sticker on it that says award winner. So with that, Cheryl Minnema.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for coming. Thanks for bringing the book so I can read it. Sometimes we forget things at home and it works out. So this book was inspired by my grandmother and my little brother Johnny. So they're both from real life, real characters. And one of the neat things about Hungry Johnny is that the publisher paired me up with an Ojibwe illustrator, and so he was able to capture a lot of real life scenes within our community and also with our characters. So that's also real exciting in this book. So let's go ahead and get started. Johnny was in his snow fort when his tummy began to growl. He peeked at Grandma through the kitchen doorway. "I like to eat," said Johnny. Grandma kept stirring and stirring her kettle of wild rice. Johnny trotted to the kitchen, straight for the apples, oranges, bananas, and the new package of sweet rolls. "I like to eat," said Johnny. Grandma shooed his hand away. "Beka, these are for the community feast." Johnny put his head down and started to drag his boots out of the kitchen. "That means I'll be waiting forever, and I'm so hungry." "But we're almost ready to go," said Grandma. "Yay," said Johnny, jumping up and down. Grandma kept her eyes on the snowy dirt road. Johnny sang, "I like to eat, I like to eat," all the way to the community center. When the people were seated and the food neatly arranged, an elderly man began to say a very long prayer, a kawe nui miigwech. Johnny dug inside his left pocket. He pulled out his mini monster truck, the cartoon sticker he got from his 5-year checkup, and the sparkly white rock he had found in the driveway. There were no snacks. Then Johnny dug inside his pants pocket and pulled out his little plastic buddy. "Big Bill," said Johnny, excited to have finally found him. "Shh," said Grandma. Johnny put most of his treasures away and sat quietly until he heard the prayer end. "We sinig." Johnny stood up and said, "It's time to eat." Grandma gently tugged the sleeve of his sweater. "Beka, we let the elders eat first." Johnny sat down. "Why do elders get the good food first?" he asked. "Out of respect," said Grandma. "Well, why aren't you getting up to eat?" asked Johnny. "Because I'm only a baby elder," said Grandma. Huh? Asked Johnny. What is a baby elder? Asked Johnny. It's when you are too young to be old and too old to be young, said Grandma. Grandma laughed. Johnny's tummy growled. The long table filled. Grandma, I'm hungry, said Johnny. Her soft hand patted his knee. Beka. Johnny's mouth watered as he watched the elders eat fried potatoes, wild rice, goulash, big chunks of fry bread, and thickly frosted sweet rolls. A place for two finally opened up at the table. Johnny stood up and then sat back down. Already taken, said Johnny. He looked at all the people still waiting to eat and started to count them. 1, 2, 3. Grandma tapped Johnny's knee. It's time to eat. Johnny hopped up and trotted to the table. In a deep voice, he said, I like to eat. I like to eat. When Johnny sat down, the platter of frosted sweet rolls was empty. Oh man, pouted Johnny. A woman picked up the empty platter, and put an even bigger platter of sweets on the table. Eat up, said the woman. Finally, said Johnny. But then he saw Grandma's friend Catherine walk through the door. Johnny looked down at his waiting plate and then back at Grandma's neighbor. She was definitely not a baby elder. Johnny stood up on his chair and yelled, Catherine, Catherine, it's time to eat. Johnny hopped off the chair and pulled it out. When Catherine sat down, she patted her knee. Johnny hopped up onto her lap. Grandma leaned over and whispered into Johnny's ear, why do all the little boys get the good food? Because, said Johnny, we like to eat. Anybody have any questions about the story or for me as a writer?
Could I ask about the tradition of the elders meeting first?
Yeah, originally this story took place in a ceremonial building, and when we're having our ceremonies, we let all the people who traveled far away eat first. But in my story, I wanted the elders to be able to eat first. And so I changed the story to a community center. And so any kind of public event, it's part of tradition to let our elders eat first. So even though I really wanted it in the ceremonial building, I changed it so I could bring in the elder teaching of the elders eating first.
What a wonderful element. Thank you.
Could you tell us about how you picked the name Johnny?
My little brother. So it's he was 5 years younger than me, and he would always run into the kitchen, and Grandma would be cooking. And when you cook for the ceremonial feasts, you have to wait until after the prayer to touch the food or to eat the food. So he pouted a lot running into the kitchen, and he was just so cute that it was fun to watch him.
Sounds a lot like the character in the book.
Yeah.
Did you say you were paired up with an illustrator to create the book?
Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yes.
process?
After I wrote the manuscript, and being in school for writing for children, I was I was taught that once you write your story, you send it off, and you pretty much don't have a choice about an illustrator. They do it. They pick illustrators for you. So it was a great blessing that I went to a smaller press, the Minnesota Historical Society, and because with the We Need Diverse Books campaign, they wanted to make sure that the book was accurate, and so they picked Wesley, who's also Ojibwe. And after the book was done and we had talked more, we had not realized we grew up in the same community, around the same age, but he's a boy, so we probably played in the mud together and just didn't even know it. But once I knew it was him, I felt confident that I wouldn't have to be worried about like maybe other cultures, depictions being put into the book, or any kind of stereotypes or misrepresentation of our culture. So that was a blessing to have that happen.
Mary Ann, or you might have already said this, do you have plans to collaborate on some other titles?
Yes, I would love Johnny to be a series of books, him and Grandma. And so I have a couple other books done already, and they're always being tweaked. And I'm currently in the process of acquiring an agent. So there might be like a change of publishers, I'm not sure. And if there is, and my books go into more mainstream, then I might not have a choice with the illustrator, but it will definitely go on. And I would love to see Johnny as a series.
Good. I hope your agent can negotiate. I think it's
Yeah.
nice to have that,
Yeah.
the two of you working together, really special.
What led you to children's literature?
I've always written poetry for adults ever since I was, a preteen. So have been used to writing. And it wasn't until, I would say, my early 20s that my mom would start talking about wanting to write down her stories from her childhood. And so hearing her talk about this dream of hers made me start thinking about writing for children. And so that kind of became both of our dream. And she passed away, and as a part of carrying on that dream, I decided to go forward and, to honor our family as well, because Grandma and Johnny, are from our family.
Who were some of your favorite writers when you were these children's age?
When I was younger, let's see, I think I was more cartoon related. I loved Sesame Street and Curious George, Charlotte's Web. And getting older, I was really into the Little House on the Prairie books and Sweet Valley High books. And a little bit older, Louise Erdrich's books are my favorite. The Birchbark House. I mean, it's a great book of taking you back in time. And when I read it, I can see my family, like my grandma telling me stories about her childhood and her mother's childhood. And so in reading that book, it just brought me back to be able to make a connection with the two because they're so similar. So it's those kind of books I wish I had as a child.
And Louise Erdrich has written children's books too,
Mm-hmm.
which is great.
Have you done a reading of this at her store in Minneapolis?
I just, maybe, was it a couple weeks ago? They have a gallery, block gallery, I think it's called. So I did a reading there, and then we went to the bookstore to do signings.
Oh, good. It's one of my favorite books.
I know, I love it. Any other questions? Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for coming.
Yes.